something changed inside of me. The inner human slowly dead in me. I feel it come alive. The darkness brings me light. There ain't no stopping it, and you will never hide from me. Pain of the change. What have I become? A creature of the night, ruled by moonlight. The pain of the change. This body's no longer mine. Feel wild and free, but caged at the same time. It's time to be human, think human, feel human. A hunger's arising inside of me. The beast is alive and break it free. It's time to be human, think human, feel human. Keep putting more chains on the beast. Hope it don't break loose. You better hope so too. I'm still inside. I'm still here. What have I done? When did this all start? I have become a monster in the dark, a hunger like no other, running on instinct. What's this creature? Always inside of me. The pain of the change. What have I become? A creature of the night, ruled by moonlight. The pain of the change. This body's no longer mine. Feel wild and free, but caged at the same time. It's time to be human, think human, feel human. A hunger's arising inside of me. The beast is alive and break it free. It's time to be human, think human, feel human. Keep putting more chains on the beast. Hope it don't break loose. You better hope so too. Whoa, you better hope so too. Whoa, you better hope so too.
Seeking power over those that oppose me. Unspeakable crime, murder at midnight. A deal I made, a life I had to take. Someone I loved once held so tight. The screams will follow me. Cries of my ancestors said, go away. My operation, fasting in brain, shape-shifting. I feel the animal high inside me. I feel the change. I feel the change coming. We are one but not the same. This form I desire, innocent blood I will devour. Ancestors gathering round the dwelling, the spirit inhabiting, evil enveloping, the dancing graves in the night, the spirit occupying and transforming, stolen heights, dark practices, my secret life, feathered outers, mysticism, intriguing, my operation, fasting in grain, shape-shifting. I feel the animal high inside me. I feel the change. Yes, I'm part of the dark creation. My desires performing incantations. I walk in disguise. If I catch you, it's your demise. Shamanism, my religion, summoning spirits, manifesting myself and changing my flesh. A nightmare to behold. I'ma make you part of the fold. The skin of a man, the soul of a predator. The change is complete. This thing I become, my flesh has succumbed. My operate fasting ingrained, shape shifting. I feel the animal hiding inside me. I feel the change. I feel the change coming. We are one but not the same.
A dreaded flag, a vengeful sea. Be careful what you say. There's always someone listening. The Dutchman tossed on the sea. I swore and the devil heard me. Now we're doomed to sail the seven seas for eternity. So yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must hold. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. A sinister grin across his face said, you'll be doomed to this place. The devil heard my oath, shame of my boast. Oh, a ghostly ship from the depths, freedom from fear is the only gift of death. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must hold. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. If you cast your eyes, you'll join us like those before. We're an omen of the ocean night. When you see the fly.
All right, folks. Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm your host, Bubblish Fisheye. Everybody knows me. Some people call me DJ Bubblish Fisheye. I do the cheerlead. I do the cheerlead at Texas A&M. I'm sorry, I can't help it. I can't help it, dude. It's I'm gonna start. We got people coming in the chat. Once we get everybody in here, we'll start cracking it. But I gotta say, I'm not gonna gloat about my beloved Longhorns taking care of business. Okay, but I heard a lot of trash talk leading up to that game from the Ags, and it's a shame because, thank you for that donation, Pablo. He said, I got my ticket for the show. Appreciate it. Thank you for anybody who wants to donate. You put the PayPal up there if anybody wants to donate PayPal. It's a good option because I don't have to split it. So if anybody wants to help out with the show and help it to do what we got to do, we appreciate it. So I don't have to go back and sell my gold. Thank you. Because this is my retirement. And without that, I guess I'm just going to be homeless walking the street with a sign. There were some pretty tasteless, classless things. Push me over just a little bit more.
Right.
That I saw going on. Like there was a guy that played for the Longhorns. And let me give you an example. This is the kind of stuff that really irks me about A&M. It was just ridiculous. Jake Ellinger should have joined Sark at rehab. Sarkisian is the coach of the Longhorns. That's pretty sad. Ellinger passed away in 2021. And that was one of the signs that the Aggie fans were holding up. My whole life, I've always kind of liked the Aggies, but I was born and raised a Longhorn. And here in Texas, it's like, you know, whatever school you root for, whether it's Baylor, Texas Tech, A&M, you know, Texas, whatever, it's like you're bound to that. People don't understand. Texas high school football is like a dang religion, you know. And there's go talk to them out there. It's like a religion, you know, and so they take it too far a lot of times. I'm not one of those people. I don't do that. But I've seen family members get into fights on Thanksgiving over these games, and it just goes too far. And I've tried my life to not be that way. And when Texas and Texas A&M stopped playing each other 13 years ago, I was actually happy. I was actually happy because Texas A&M was going to the SEC. Texas was staying in the Big 12, and I could root. No, Elvira, hey, it's okay. It's okay. So Texas A&M, hey, come on up there. Come on. It's okay. It's okay. You're a little confused. There you are. Say hi to everybody. Say hi, everybody. Hey. So Texas A&M going to the SEC was good. I was glad because they weren't going to play each other anymore. And really because my friends and family were taking it too far. A lot of them were just with the joking and the horrible things that they were saying and doing. But I got to admit that most of it was coming from the Aggie side. It really was. And I'm not just saying that, man. I'm being honest. But I was glad to see that the A&M's always had this real hard grudge for Texas. Elvira, please. Okay. And so I just thought, you know, this is ridiculous that it's, you know. So if you watched the games yesterday, Auburn and Alabama got into a fight. There was a big brawl. And then, of course, they peppered sprayed people down at the Horseshoe in Ohio because Ohio State and Michigan got into a fight because they tried to plant a flag. Michigan players tried to plant a flag, and there was a big fight. Then there was a scuffle between, I think it was Iowa and who was it? Iowa and Kansas? I want to know. It was Iowa and Nebraska. They got into it. It was a big mess. It was like a melee, and all these fights were going on. North Carolina, and I know you probably saw it on the news if you watched it. It was North Carolina and North Carolina State. They were like, one guy had their flag and was like tore it off of this other guy and was throwing it, and they were fighting. And there was some scuffling going on between Texas and A&M too. There was one player, a defensive back for A&M, was getting burned, Lee. And then he took one of our guys and body slammed him in the end zone. They didn't call it. And then he basically he shoved the guy out of bounds, wouldn't let go. And then a bunch of the UT players ran over there and started fighting with him. So it was a very, there were several others too. I mean, there was rivalry week. Florida State and Florida, they got into it in the end zone. It was a lot of penalties and probably a lot of fines will be issued out. And but you know, this is college football, guys. This isn't war, you know? And so I've seen this happening with high school too, you know, getting on the bus and the other team throws rocks at your bus. That's happened to us. It's really ridiculous. I'll say this: it happened in Cameron, Texas, and then, you know, we played Westlake. They flatted our bus. I mean, those things that because they don't like losing, so they get in those two schools in particular win a lot. You know, those are two very, very powerful programs, and when you go there and beat them, they don't like it. And so, yeah, it's, you know, But yeah, the Texas game was a big deal because the winner moved on to the SEC championship to play Georgia, and then the loser, would Texas would still probably get an at-large bid to go to the playoffs, but they wouldn't be going to the SEC championship to play for a first-round bye, which is kind of stupid. You're playing an extra game anyway to get a bye. Why are you playing that to get the bye? What does that matter? I mean, you might as well lose and then just get the playoffs. I mean, it's dumb, whatever. But it's not like A&M had a snowball's chance in hell against us or Georgia. They had no business being in there. But once again, the A&M, they go too far. And I've seen that my whole life. I promise you, I'm telling you the truth. They go way too far. They take it way too far. They've kidnapped and actually unalived the Texas mascot, Bevo, on more than one occasion. They've done horrible things, sawed off his horns and everything. I mean, they take it too far. And then on top of it, they got stupid traditions that don't amount to a hill of shit. It's dumb. It's dumb as hell. Don't make any sense. So yesterday there was a lot of scuffling and stuff. There was Chris says Penn State. Yeah, Penn State got into it with Maryland. Well, the guy he scored a touchdown. The guy ran up and shoved him from behind, like blatant, because they're mad. They're getting beat. Penn State's an infinitely better school than you. Sorry, nobody wants to go to Maryland and be a terper, whatever the hell they are.
Turpentine. I don't know.
They're terps or turds or something like that. I don't know what they are. But they got their ass beat and they were mad. It's like everybody who was losing yesterday were taking it out on the opposing team because they, the guy from Arizona State, he took the Sun Devil trident and tried to plant it in the end zone. And
there's a lot of fights.
The Wildcat players ran over there and started smacking him and stuff. And then it happened in North Carolina State, got mad. And one guy's jersey got ripped off. It was pretty funny. Yeah, terrapins are a turtle, yeah. But I mean, when you looked at what was going on yesterday, is this what we want? We want to be like England? I thought British policies made the world soccer. Sure. I hate soccer and I hate people do it around me.
Amen to that.
Can't stand it. They're
Soccer
like,
sucks.
football. It's just football. We run and we kick the ball. And then we fall because it's so dangerous. Oh, my.
I've got to catch a footy, mate.
Your foot is not. They're like, oh, no. We kick the ball.
I'll be damned if I miss me footy.
That can't happen. You can't do that. That breaks the rules. We have to be gentlemen about this. I'm going to lightly graze your private areas. Don't do that. Stop it. Stop it.
Roll around on the ground so they can get a red card.
All these Europeans over there like, let's stop your ridiculousness. We'll slightly graze your genitals. That's what they do. And then they're like, Americans don't understand. They're not tough. We're like, look at our sports. Have you seen how violent football is? Last month, a guy died playing college football. This is America, dude. They like to. I used to watch these foreigners who come to the club, and they have this real cocky attitude. I don't know. Maybe it's just Texas. I don't know. But we'll beat your ass. They come in there with an attitude and be like, hey, what's up? And then next thing you know, they're on the floor getting the holy shit beat out of them. And their friends are like, what happened? Why? Well, you came in with an attitude because Americans are soft and we eat garbagey food and whatever. But Americans like to fight. At least my generation did. The lower generations are a bunch of sissies. But, Generation X will beat your ass. I never saw a foreigner, not once downtown, get the better of an American. Not one time. In all the years I hung out down there, 15 years, I saw them get the bloody hell beat out of them over and over again. But, and then they took it, the takeaway was, okay, go to America and act a fool, but not in Texas. Because the Texans are different. Because when I was overseas, I was talking to this Aussie, and he was like, the Texans are all just built different. You're more like Australians, mate. And we're not going to go to Texas and start a fight. I'll fight with someone else. If I'm in California, Florida, I'll fight with someone. But Texans pull out Bowie knives and guns real fast. And They're quick to throw the fisticuffs. Yeah, we are. A lot of these people from Jersey, Chicago, the other shitty places, California, they come here and then they get into stuff with the people. They cut people off and they drive like shit. And then the Texans are beating their ass and shooting at them. And they're like, damn, we get away with this bullshit where we're from. You don't hear. And I would advise you not to do it. Because Texans are like, howdy, here's my bowie knife. I mean, seriously, I traveled 16 different states. I was all over the West. You know, a few years ago, I did this long trip. I was gone for a month with my wife. And we took this long trip, month-long trip. And there weren't people acting like, you know, super friendly. But the people didn't have that sort of like grit like you see here in Texas. And a lot of people have come here to stay. And I'm not talking about Austin, but downtown Austin is a very dangerous place. But the rest of it, you know, but Texas will beat your ass. They will absolutely F you up. I mean, you know, if you look at the statistics, like the violence here, it's pretty heavy. Like there's some violence that goes on. I see it a lot. I see people from other places come here and they try to throw their weight around and act like, you know, these people that'll come from another country where they're able to bully people, like the Pakistanis that'll come here. And I have Pakistani friends. I'm not picking on them. I'm just saying that I've seen them come from Britain with an attitude, and you're like, bitch, you ain't in Britain no more. I'll slap your face so hard that your mom will wake up in agony. This isn't how we act over. We will beat your ass. And I saw it happen. And I'm like, what makes them cocky like that? Because the British people let them do it. Or they'll come from France and they'll have an attitude. And you're like, okay, over there in Paris, you were able to I guess, cut in line and do whatever. When I was at the theater and I saw these two guys, they were, I don't know what they were. They weren't French. They were speaking French, but they were Tunisian or something, but they were living in France. And I had a short conversation with one of them, and they just got in line in front of these two guys, these two Hispanic guys in San Antonio. And I watched them snatch one of them up by his hair, and there was no questions asked, and just started throwing punches and said, bitch, what are you doing? This is San Antonio. Because I guess they gave him a little guff or something. I wasn't really paying attention. I was talking to the people I was with, standing in line to get popcorn. And I was like, whoa. There's a video also of these guys from San Antonio beating up some guy from some Israeli that pulled a gun on him. He pulled a gun on him, and they drug him into the pool and beat the hell out of him. There's another one of these guys in Houston. I mean, they were some rowdy rednecks, and they were just smacking the hell out of those guys, man. And those guys were like Nigerians or something. And I was like, they were talking something. I don't know what they were. And there was some, American black dude that was videoing it. And he's like, dog, yo, this ain't Africa, yo. What the hell you doing, man? These people will F you up. And it was right there in Pasadena, Texas, right south of Houston. And the guy's narrating it. He's like, yep, welcome to America. Welcome to Texas.
Yeah, especially them big old corn-fed country boys.
They don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And the African Americans here will mess you up too. So will the Mexicans. I mean, people from Texas are a different breed, dude. I mean, they're just different. I've seen people come from other places and then just get the holy hell beat out of them. So it's no different with football. I mean, I watch people brawl and fight, But the problem I have with A&M is I rooted for them against those other SEC schools for the last 13 years, and then I just saw so much crap. So I found out that there was no national championships, right, back in the 20s, whatever. Mm-hmm. So A&M actually has won one national championship, and I think that's a Mandela effect, because when we were kids, we used to tease them all the time that they never won the national championship, but they had, 1939. Uh-huh. But like I said, thanks to the Mandela effect. That's what I believe. But now they've won one. And then what happens? They go back in time on their wall of honor because they have nothing to brag about, and especially in football. So this really pissed me off when I read this, and I posted it on Facebook. They actually went back in time and did a computer simulation and gave themselves the 1919, I think? Mm-hmm. In 1927 or something like that. 2 years anyway, back from the ancient times, and they gave themselves retrospectively the national championship, and they put that on their wall. So it was somebody from Oklahoma that was visiting them, an Oklahoma alumni
Yeah.
that took a photo of it and told everybody in the Big 12, hey, these people are frauds. They're full of shit. And so, you know, UT and Oklahoma have very proud, storied programs. Oklahoma's crappy. I hate them. But still, though, come on, dude. Why would you put that on there if you didn't actually win it? And then they claimed that they won the Big 12 twice, which they didn't. They won the South. So after the complaint was lodged, when Oklahoma complained about it, because it was them, they blamed Texas. It wasn't us. It was actually Oklahoma that did the. I read it. So the Oklahoma alumni complained to the Big 12, and they had to go back, and so they put down the bottom little bitty letters South. You know, yeah, you won the South, and then you got the shit kicked out of you by Nebraska. One year I think it was Nebraska. The other year it was somebody else, but they got the hell beat out of them in '97. They didn't win the Big 12, so they've never won that, and they've never even been to the SEC championship game. So there's a lot of trash talk, but some of it just goes way too far. And with A&M, they always take it way too far. You know, you can't just say, you know, we're going to beat this team. No, we got to beat the hell out of them. And then they could be playing Russia, and they're singing a fight song about defeating Texas.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because there was a guy from South Carolina. They asked him, what do you think went right for you today? He goes, it's more about what went wrong with A&M. He's like, they were too busy playing Texas. Because they heard their fight song, and they're like, what in the hell? What are you talking about beating TU? They call us TU.
Yeah. I didn't even know that was their fight song. Like they had the subtitles and they were playing it, you know, during the game. And I was like, I asked Wolf, I was like, is that their official fight song? Because the whole thing is just about like UT sawing off the horns and down with the burnt orange and all this crap. And I was like, is this like? I thought it was like a special song they were singing for the rivalry.
No, it's not.
That's their school fight song. It's all about UT.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Still, it's silly. Because if you're playing someone else, why are you singing about this other school? Somebody said Texas Tech. I know Texas Tech. It's funny because Texas Tech did this parody of them, and they were making fun of them and stuff. And they got real upset with them because they drew some. They did some stuff. They actually went to A&M and drew some pictures of the Aggie dog and the Gomer Pyle guy doing stuff, and they got in trouble. You know, but A&M is real bad about, like, when they would come here to play, no other schools did this. Nobody. The only school that ever did this was A&M. And when they came to play, every year without fail, they would go up and down downtown. You had to watch your vehicle. And a lot of people carpooled, and it got to the point where we would carpool and we would draw straws, and then we would have to pay that person to bring their vehicle downtown to park to work there. Because after the game, if it was UT A&M and they played here in Austin, especially if they lost, they would vandalize your vehicles. Now, I've told you the story when we came out of the bar and the club we were working, and Squid's girlfriend's car had been vandalized.
Yeah.
That day, some Aggies learned a very valuable lesson. Squid, a diehard Ohio State fan, he became a sort of honorary Longhorn and a hater of A&M forever because they carved A&M onto the back of the trunk of his girlfriend's car. And then she wouldn't let him drive it downtown for about a month. I had to pick him up. So shout out to you, Squid. But yeah, that's what happened. They put all they did to my truck one year. They thank God is they put shoe polish all over it. So I had to go and get it. I had to go and wash it and clean it off the next day. Whatever, you know. But they would flat people's tires and throw screws in the parking lots. I mean, they were mean, nasty little bastards. And I'm sure these are just college-age little punks, you know, doing whatever. And that's probably not indicative of all of the fans. But they lie like crazy, too. They'll make up shit. Look at what they did. And then Crazy Roofer Man, you know. I remember on Facebook, you know, probably a couple years ago, he made some comment about, I used to be a TU fan. That right there tells you he's lying. And then the TU people attacked me and tried to beat me up because my dad was in World War II. But think about that statement.
I mean, that happened to like people who came back from Vietnam,
yeah.
But like World War II, that's not a thing. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
it's just not.
Nobody tried to beat you up, okay? Nobody tried to beat you up. You lying sack. Okay, shut up. I read that and I was like, I kind of challenged it, but I didn't want to get into it because he had his little posse of insane clown posse of people. And I was just like, whatever, dude. The guy's always making up shit. And we've seen what a liar he is. But, he's obsessed with this cult of Aggieism. And he got butthurt at one time. The whole thing between me and him actually started because I dared to make fun of them one time on the show. And he got real mad and messaged me and sent me a bunch of crap, and I thought, this guy's unhinged. But what do you expect when your whole identity is, I just got sick of it over the last couple of years, and them talking trash about Texas joining the SEC and how that we're going to get our ass beat all the time and blah, 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 blah. Well, we're going to the championship. Get used to it. It's probably going to happen a lot. So there it is right there. Enjoy it. So, now that Texas is there and I see how they're acting, it reminds me of why I quit rooting for them. I'm good. I'm not going to, there's no more. I'm not friendly with it at all. I got family and friends that are A&M. My cousin pitched there at baseball, Clayton Turner. Hats off to him, but I have no love for that other side, dude. I just saw too much bullshit once again. And the lying that they do. Just the absolute brazenness of it, My cousin's husband, Rob, shout out to him. He said, hey, I'm proud. He's an Aggie. I've never seen an Aggie do this before, but he said, I hope that Texas makes the state of Texas proud and that they do good in the playoffs. Never seen anybody do that. Gustavo says, come on, guys, sports is rigged. Yeah, I do believe that NFL is, for sure. NFL's definitely got a lot of the refs rig it. I mean, just watch the Chiefs this year. They've won 9 games by like 6 points or fewer or something like that, and it's always the refs at the last minute stepping in to save them because they love that guy, Jake Mahomes. What's his name? Mahomes.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes. They love that dude, man. He was caught on a hot mic, basically telling the refs what to do. Go look it up. But now it's 300 people are in here, and so my buddy Big Jim Ostrander, he's a big Chiefs fan, diehard Chiefs fan. Has been one ever since I've known him. Don't tell him that. He'll take a win no matter what. He don't care. He's not above them cheating. The Blondes and Boos, they're big Chiefs fans too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. That's okay. I forgive y'all. I used to like the Chiefs too until they started winning all the time and cheating. Now I can't stand them. And at this point with the Cowboys, dude, I mean, they got screwed a lot. And I'll say that in the playoffs. They sure did. Them and the Raiders both. And they're my teams. But when you just play like shit and give them a reason to everybody to not like you, and then your the Cowboy fans are just stupid. Stupid. You win one game. Oh, we're rolling. We're going to the Super Bowl. Are you out of your mind? You may watch the Super Bowl on TV, but you're not going to be there.
Yeah.
And then when you have Jerry Jones, that ET looking goofball who gives tours. They had J.J. Watt from the Texans when they had the hurricane. They had to go and practice for a couple of weeks and do everything at the Star in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it was like a circus. There's no privacy. You could be in there working out or you're eating lunch. It's a beautiful facility, but there's Jones and his people are giving tours. And people are watching you like you're in the zoo. And then you wonder, how the hell are you going to win if that's what you're doing? Jones is a million years old. He probably has a rolling ambulance that follows behind him everywhere he goes. At this point, though, with my kidney stone, I probably need that. So I'm not one to talk right now. But Jones, give it up, dude. How many facelifts does it take? She's like, I'm just so proud of our team. Oh, shoot, my finger fell off. Let me pick it up and have it sewed back on. I'm just going to keep being the general manager and destroying this organization. Please, Elon Musk, buy the Cowboys. You got enough money, buy them and the Astros, and let's take care of it. Good gosh, come on. Buy the Raiders too. Buy that's conflict of interest, but buy one of them. Get rid of that goofy-looking pumpkin pie haircutted freak that owns the Raiders. The little boy who grew into a little boy. What's his name? The goofy Davis's son. Is it Scott? I don't know. Whatever. It's ridiculous. Anyways, what we need is the Cowboys to get their ass beat all the way until the 2027. Just lose every game, and maybe people will stop buying their merchandise. You don't see me wearing Cowboys hats. No. The Cowboys, I'm not going to wear their merchandise. I will not rep their merchandise. I will not buy their tickets to do anything. Nothing. So, good. Tennessee Ridge Runner, good for you, because it's ridiculous. Yes, Bernard, there should be an NFL team in San Antonio, and was going to be the Raiders. But Jerry Jones helped to veto that. He went down there, I just don't think that's a good idea. He's a piece of shit. So he messed it up, man. We almost had a team. We almost had the Raiders, and they would have matched the color of the Spurs. It would have been incredible.
Yeah.
And I was like, the Raiders are going to come to Texas. I was so happy. But then they went to Vegas, and they're a symbol of futility now, because their organization was always battling with the NFL. In fact, there was a lawsuit between them and the NFL, and the NFL screwed them ever since, just like they've done Dallas. But they don't like Jerry Jones, because Jerry Jones is a little different than most of the other owners. And I'm not even going to get into how. But they don't like that. They're an exclusive little club, and he's not really a part of it. He's just an annoying shithead. Anyways, folks, so we got 300 people up here now. Enough about the how stupid the Aggies are, and whoever else. I just want to say one last thing. We beat Oklahoma, beat their ass. We beat the shit out of Kentucky, and we beat A&M's ass. Those were all personal for me, for certain reasons. Kentucky, Oklahoma, and A&M. You know who you are. And I'm glad that we beat their ass. Very personal. Hook 'em horns. Can't even lift the... Whatever. What do I do here? Other side. There you go. So before my enemies start trying to pick apart this is not the devil. This is hook 'em horns, and these are not track marks. This is from being in the hospital when you have a kidney stone. And it was aggravating me earlier, but I'm hoping to get better. Give me 1 second, and we got a story to tell you guys. So we talked. We had on what was it? Was it Friday night? We had Friday night. We had my cousin Tim come on.
Mm-hmm.
Tim is my cousin on my dad's side, and he told his story of what happened to him in a house. Go back and check it out. It was an amazing story, and we talked about it. And he didn't have a real long drawn out encounter, but it was a terrifying thing. But it was pivotal in the way that it kind of like it lends credence to what we've been saying and the stories that we've retold. Now, I got accused the other day in a group of you cherry pick stories that are more fantastical. I'm like, no shit. I'm gonna give you $100. No shit. Of course we do. I didn't deny it. I said, of course I'm going to. Do you want me to sit here and talk about insurance premiums and then everybody leaves and goes to sleep? And what are we doing here? You're here to be entertained. But just because you're here to be entertained doesn't mean you can't be here to learn too. You can learn and be entertained. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, they're not mutually exclusive.
They're like, he's an entertainer. That's what he does. Not denying that either. No shit.
You're just mad because you can't educate and entertain at the same time.
People are mad because you're an entertainer. I'm going to say this. I got to get comfortable here. If your name is not in green, it should be, because we're going to have a giveaway at the end of the show, and then we're going to be mailing off tomorrow or Tuesday. So if you want to make your name in green, what do they got to do?
You have to sign up to become a YouTube member. Like, if you're in the live chat, there's like a little $sign icon that's like right to the right of the chat box. You click on that, and they'll give you the option to become a member. It's like $5 a month, and as long as you're a member, you'll be eligible for the weekly giveaways that we do. So it's a good way to support the channel, and you got a chance to get something out of it.
Yeah, and the best way to support the channel is through the Patreon. I've said that before, because you get a swag bag after 60 days, and then after 6 months, you get another one. So you're always updated on the new swag. And that's the best way. And you'll get, with the higher tier, you'll get my books. We got another one that's about 3/4 done at this point. I'm trying. I want it to be good. I don't want it to just put out some crap, or I just rush it along. I was going to try and make it for Christmas, but do you want it for Christmas, or do you want it good? You got to, so I got to work on it in my spare time. There's the Patreon. Thank you, Sugar Britches. Long-time listener, member. And if you're a wrench, dude, just send us your information so we can send you something. Okay. So we started talking when we were talking with Tim about this creature thing that he saw. And it reminded me of one of the stories we had gotten. It wasn't too long ago. I think it was actually in September when we got that one. But I was in so much pain, that I wasn't really. So I fleshed it out a little bit more, because luckily the person was listening. Well, I actually met them through a friend of theirs that listens to the show, and she was listening. So shout out to you, Diane, for giving us that. She gave them the heads up and said, hey. And so I got in touch with them. I was able to talk to them a little bit more. But most of what they had to say was already there. And so it is really, it scared the shit out of me. I'm not going to lie. Like if it was me, it reminds me of the story that we had where the guy, and I said this on the show on Friday, it reminds me of the show where the guy that was writing, he writes novels, was a ghostwriter. And, I'm sorry, romance novels. Those trash romance novels. But he was in a chateau that him and his wife had a divorce, and he ended up with it in the south of France. But it was, or in the south of France, and it got really cold, and it snowed, and he ended up running out of that place in the snow because that thing crawled out of a mirror. I don't know if y'all remember that. That's one from way back when we just had the podcast. And I remember reading that story, and I thought, what on earth would I do if I was in that position? I don't know what I would do. Because I thought about it. I was driving one day, and I was just like, I think I could handle it, But then when you listen to what Tim said, which was in that house, and then, we were talking about the crazy real estate stories. You remember when our friend Leo was giving us he was telling us about seeing something, whatever. And it wasn't something, but something walked by him, and you're thinking, one of our other friends, she's a real estate agent, and she gave us some creepy stuff. So imagine being a real estate agent, and I thought about it before. You're in these big spooky houses, and you're trying to sell them, or you're just staying in a house by yourself, and something happens. Well, I mean, you can run out of the house, right? You can just leave. But what if it's kind of like The Shining? What happened to Harley? And that's actually not his real name. That's his nickname. His real name sounds very similar. But Harley, what was that?
What?
You didn't hear that talking?
Mm-mm.
Holy crap, I heard it clear as day. I thought it was a woman's voice.
Maybe someone else.
Okay. Well, that's weird, but there's nobody out there. There's nobody here. It's Sunday. Okay. Well, anyway, I just heard something weird. I was like, what the heck is that? So imagine if you were living, like you're living your life, and your friend calls you and says, hey, he was in between jobs, and they said, would you like to get paid to stay at our vacation home? Because the winter before, someone had broken in and vandalized it. They had stayed there, and then they left. So for the winter, and it was on. All I can tell you is I can't tell you exactly where it's at because they're actually selling it. They're selling it. The people that own it are selling it. I can say I feel bad for whoever buys it, but it was on the border, near the border, not super close, but it was way up in northern Maine, near the border of Maine and Canada. So it snowed like crazy when this happened. This was years ago, and the people that own it now are the people that owned it at the time sold it to some friends of theirs, and now they're selling it because they have had some issues with it. Let me take a drink. When I talked to this guy, I told him, I said, anybody that has that place, it sounds like it's going to have a problem. Nobody can live in a place like that. Mm-hmm. The woods, sorry. Thank you for that donation, Marianne. The woods around it are haunted, from what these people have said. And not just by ghosts, but by something else. Something that we here at Paranormal Roundtable are very familiar with, which is why his friend Diana told him, hey, I'm saying her name wrong. I'm sorry. It's Dina. Dina, sorry about that. I just saw my phone. Dina, got your name wrong. I'm sorry. I should have known that, But Dina she said, look, she went up there with these people. They're all friends, that used to own it. She's been up there. She says it's a very scary place. So she told Harley, she says, look, I think the place is haunted. So, the people that owned it, I think that it was John and Charla, whatever. They gave me their real names. They don't care. Or maybe I'm not saying their names right. Anyway, that's not important. John and his wife, they told their friend Harley, they said, yeah, we know you're in between jobs. We'll stock it up. And then, you'll have plenty of whatever provisions that'll last you for a few months. So they gave him 6 months worth of food and supplies because up there, winter can drag on and on. They don't know. Mm-hmm. But they said, more than likely, you're not going to need 6 months of supplies. So he went up there in November, And so when he first arrived, he'd only been there one time. The first time he'd ever been there, he goes, we didn't stay there. He's like, we went out there and we were there during the day, and then we went back into this small town, that's further down, And so he goes, me and my wife at the time where they, got divorced. It's kind of weird. They got divorced and then they started dating. So they are now dating, but they're divorced.
Never heard of that.
Yes, okay. They got reconnected.
I mean, whatever works, I guess.
So yes, so I'm not judging. I'm just saying it's not an orthodox relationship. But she had a few things to say about it too, because she had been there a few times. So it is a long story, and I don't know if I can tell you the whole thing tonight. But if not, we'll get it on the podcast episode. And I didn't want to sound repetitive because Tim went through this, but it was only 4 months, and he could run out of the house, and he did. Multiple times, Tim left the house, didn't want to be in there. I don't blame him. Saw this demonic Dogman looking thing. If you listen to the show on Friday, it was crazy. And he tells the encounter himself. Tim can speak, But what Harley told me, I don't know how you keep your sanity. I would have lost it because I know a lot about this stuff. I guess I want to say this: ignorance is bliss. Thank goodness that Harley was not as, how do you say it? Like, it's kind of like what Rachel's husband, Marian from Romania. He's an Orthodox Christian. It's like the more you know, the more you're responsible for. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Harley didn't know any of this. So he didn't know what he was dealing with. He was not a believer in the paranormal, but he was not a doubter. Does it make sense? Like, he thought, okay, it's there. He goes, I've seen shows. He goes, my girlfriend, used to be my wife, she used to watch these shows. He's like, and they'd be on, what was that channel that used to come on all the time on that channel?
Travel Channel,
No,
Chiller,
not Heartland. What's it called?
Destination America.
Destination America. He would watch those. He goes, they'd be on that, and I said, I know the channel. He goes, she was always watching it. She believed in it. And he goes, and her sister was pretty much a psychic, and she plays a part in this too. And so when he started telling me this, I was like, man, it was a riveting tale. But you got to remember, the whole time that he's telling me this, I'm thinking, this is a man's life. This man went through this. This man actually, for months. And this was years ago. There was no cell phone. All he had was the landline. People had cell phones, but he didn't have a cell phone. He said he didn't get a cell phone until 2006. And so you're either really informed or really uninformed. You know what I mean? So he didn't get a phone until 2006. He says this was like, a little bit before that. He's like, I didn't have a cell phone, and they told me you should have a cell phone. And so he goes, come November, it was already snowing, but it wasn't too bad. And he goes, and I didn't care much for the holidays. Thank you for that donation. He's like, I didn't care much for the holidays. He's like, I didn't want to be, my wife had left, and my 2 sons were their teenagers or whatever. They were already older. And he's like, it was brutal time in my life. I was suffering. I was drinking a lot. He's like, and so when Dina told him, hey, why don't you go to John and their house and stay there? It's a job. They'll pay you. I mean, these people were wealthy. I mean, they had like a nice place down in Massachusetts where they lived. And then they had a nice vacation home there on the coast. And then they had that house that they would go up to in the summer. They'd stay the summer there. It's beautiful in Maine. I've never been up there, but I've heard of a lot of people have told me just it's wonderful. And so you start thinking about, when you're listening to this guy talk, like putting yourself in that position, the first night he was there, he goes, it was so peaceful. He goes, I was sitting outside. He's like, and I had my dog with me. He goes, that was the only saving grace, is that I had my dog, Shirley. And he's like, my dog, she was there. She was a golden retriever mix. He goes, I don't know what, she's a mutt rescue. He's like, I got her. That's it. He goes, and she was sitting out on the porch with me. He goes, but she couldn't get comfortable. The first night we were there, I'm thinking, this is so wonderful. It's so nice. He goes, it was a bit chilly. And it was in the 40s, but it wasn't bad. And this guy's from upstate New York, so he's accustomed to the cold. Mm-hmm. But up there, up near Canada, it's a different type of cold. It's like Russian winter.
Chill you to the bone cold.
It's bad. And he said, it was, but then he goes, as days went on, it got colder and colder. And he goes, and I was enjoying the solitude. I liked the solitude anyway. And lo and behold, he was a security guard. But he was in between jobs. He had quit because some dumbass didn't pay him. Well, yeah, that happens a lot in this industry, believe me. People don't like to pay. Well, the client hasn't paid me. Well, too damn bad. You still have people to pay, don't you? You better have some reserve. But people are unscrupulous in this business, believe me. There's some bad people doing stuff. So anyway, he hadn't been paid. He was really upset, and he was about to get kicked out of his apartment. So he didn't have that many things. He put them in storage, and he just went to live there basically until the spring. And he figured, he'd probably be there till March. But that's a long time to commit to being alone. And he said for the first month, until like probably mid-December, he said he was able to go in and out of the town that wasn't that far away. But he goes, but then the heavy snow started. He's like, and by the 3rd week of December, right before Christmas, he goes, it was winter wonderland. Mm-hmm. And up to this point, he was having bad dreams. He was having nightmares. The first one in particular, we'll hit the high points here or the low points, depending on who you are. The first one he had was of this shadow type being that was hovering in the corner of the room that just looked like death. He said it looked like if you took the Grim Reaper, but you don't see the bones. It's just like the cloak floating in the corner of the room. He's like, and it was a dream. I was having a dream. He's like, but then I woke up and I thought, wow, that's weird. It was like the Grim Reaper, but without the scythe, you know. And he said, and then I had a dream, like he goes, I remember this. It was the day before Christmas Eve. He goes, and luckily they had, you know, TV he could watch, you know, but it wasn't, the signal would go out. It was like satellite, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd have to go onto the roof to clear off the whatever, you know,
Yeah.
so he could get the receiver to work. Yeah, it was terrible. But he said I'd be watching TV. He goes, and I'm watching these Christmas shows, whatever. And I was watching Scrooge. What he said. He goes, and I fell asleep, and I thought, oh, it had to be the movie that I was watching.
Yeah.
And he goes, I was watching. I remember what version he said it was, but he said he fell asleep, and he goes, something tapped me on my shoulder, and I wake up, and I'm sitting there in the recliner. There's a fire going, you know. He's like, they left me a lot of firewood, and he goes, but I was using a lot of it. And he goes, and I look, and I see this thing that looks like a man with elongated limbs, wearing some kind of animal skin on his body, and he's crawling towards me. He's like, and I jump up out of the chair, and then I fall backwards, and then I open my eyes, and I realize that I was dreaming. I woke up. I sat up in the chair and was like, what the hell? But I explained to Harley, I said, you weren't dreaming, dude. You were out of your body.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm getting the chills. And then that sense of, you know, dread and that falling back into your body, that falling feeling. I said, that's you going back into your body. And he was like, is that what that was? I said, yeah, that's what that is. And so I explained that part to him because he kept saying it was like a dream. Somebody said XRP. Yes, XRP. Definitely, I would look into that. That is crypto. But anyway, so hey, see, I heard it again. You didn't hear that?
Mm-mm.
Keep hearing like a woman's talking. It's weird.
I mean, I'll go check, see if there's anyone out there.
Which, I mean, you know, you gotta run around the neighborhood, but just take a look because I keep hearing it. It's weird. Hold on one second, folks. You see anything?
No.
No. Okay. So when he saw this man-like thing, I'm going to say man-like thing coming towards him, and I asked him, "Did you get a look at the face?" He goes, the face was just, you couldn't really. It was nondescript the first time. He couldn't get a good look at it. He didn't know what it was. It just kind of like was moving towards him. He says, when I woke up, though, I still felt like something was watching me. He goes, and it was getting more and more brazen. That was his words, not mine. To the point where it was like he would go out to sit out on the porch to smoke. He smokes a pipe. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know many people that smoke a pipe. Those smoke pipes,
tobacco pipe?
but like a tobacco.
Oh,
He smokes a tobacco pipe, you know.
I used to have one just to try it.
Mm-hmm. Kind of a lost art, I guess.
Yeah.
But
It tastes a lot better than cigarettes.
But he smokes the pipes. He would go outside and he would smoke. And he said, dude, I was freaking out, dude. He goes, I was starting to get where I was sitting there. He goes, it was the day after Christmas. Nothing happened. Christmas Eve, Christmas, nothing. He was on the phone talking to some friends and family that knew he was there. He was sitting out on the porch. He goes, and I'm sitting there the day after Christmas. It's the night after Christmas, you know. He goes, I made me and Shirley a little Christmas dinner. Tried to keep the spirit a little bit, you know. And he said, I'm out there. And I see this black, four-legged, hairy thing. He goes, I don't know what it is because it's too large to be a wolf. He goes, but it moves between these trees. He's like, and I'm out there, and I'm like, what in the hell is that? He goes, so I stand up. Of course, I'm armed. And he goes, like, there's 4 guns there. 2 of them were the people that lived there, and then 2 of them were mine. And he's like, and I'm looking through the scope to see if I can get a better look, and it's dark, but it's not pitch black. And he's like, and I can't get a beat on what it was. It wouldn't come out from behind the tree. He goes, but it didn't make any sense because that tree was not big enough to hide whatever he had just seen run. So he goes, in my heart, I knew it wasn't a physical thing.
Mm-hmm.
So then he just goes, okay. And he goes back inside. And he goes, the whole time the dog would go out there and just growl. And she would not leave the porch or leave his side unless he went down the steps and went out into the yard with her, and she would go around to the tree line. And then he started hearing this noise that was coming from the back door. He would hear this scratching noise. And he's like, he goes, I wish I had pictures of it. He's like, I wish I had pictures of it. Because there was claw marks on it. And I'm thinking a bear, maybe a bear, but it was winter and bears hibernate. So he was like, my dog would not go out that back door, and I had to go back there to get to the woodshed to get wood. And she would walk with me, and she'd just be like head on a swivel and growling at everything and nothing at the same time. And so he would walk back there. He goes, and one time, he goes, this was like closer to January, it's 2 days before the New Year's. He's like, there were just little things happening up to this point, folks. Little things were happening. Like, it wasn't like nothing was happening. One thing happened, he was in the shower, and the shower curtain would get hit. Like something would hit the shower curtain. Another time he was shampooing his hair. He's like, what hair I had left, and he was like, I was premature balding. But he said, he was having whatever, but he was washing his hair and something rubbed top of his head. Things like that. And one time he would wake up like something would scream in his ear. Or it would whisper while he was falling asleep watching a football game or whatever. And he's like, I would jump up and be like, what the hell? He goes, and when I would go into the study, there was like a little study area there to use the computer. He's like, it was horrible. He's like, there was something there. He goes, in fact, the closet door opened right in front of me one time. He's like, so I just made up my mind. He goes, I had talked to my dad on the phone. He goes, and I told him, I think this place is haunted. And he goes, and my dad laughed. My dad's a Bostonite. He's like, oh, you're scared of ghosts up there, didn't really care. He was like, my dad, he goes, my mother was from Albany, New York, or, up there in that area. His dad was a native Boston, whatever. And his dad and mom were not together anymore, but his mother had been remarried. And so he was good friends with his stepdad too. And he said, I tell my stepdad, he goes, and my stepdad was a little more forthcoming. And he said, he used to live in the Catskills area. And he says, I lived in an area near the Catskills that was haunted. And he goes, I believe you. There's things out there. So he told him, is there a Bible? He said, yeah, there's a Bible there. Go sleep with it open in your room. Good advice. So he said, I started getting closer to God. He goes, you're alone, lots of time on your hands. He goes, I began to pray more. He's like, but then it got to where when I would pray, I would feel like something was around me, trying to envelop me, trying to whisper negative things into my ear, like God doesn't love you. You're going to go to hell. Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And things like, telling him to renounce Jesus. Things like it was strong. It was very, very strong. And he said it was almost intangible at first, like, but then it became palpable, tangible, whatever. It was like it was there. Like one night he woke up and he heard the sound of a heart beating. He said it reminded him of the Edgar Allan Poe book, The Telltale Heart. And he said that he goes, I heard it. It was like boom, 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 boom. He goes, and I walked, it was daylight. He goes, I walked all the way around the house, walked everywhere. Nothing. Somebody says you need to get Matt Imps, brother. What do you mean, Matt Imps? Matt Imps has been on the show. Matt Imps needs to get me. How about that? Me and Matt are friends. But no, so the heart beating, right? And he's like, I get a call. He's like, and it's my son. And he's like, Happy New Year. He goes, and then the beating stopped. And I thought maybe it was just so quiet that it was me hearing my own heartbeat. Because that's unnerving. Have you ever been in a soundproof room, a real soundproof room?
I haven't, but I've heard that it's like it messes with people.
Yeah, I was in one for about 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
My friend had one. You remember Ronan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we told you about that party we were down. It was a recording studio.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they threw a big party. We went down there, and there was this guy at that party, and he's like, "Hey, He's like, I have a studio, and he lived like 2 houses over, so we just walked over there. It was in Manchac, whatever. And we went inside of an actual sound. Dude, you can, when you stop, and he goes, just stop, don't say anything. And we're standing there, and you can hear people, like you can hear it, you can feel it, hear it. It's unnerving. So I was in there for 2 minutes by myself, and I didn't like it. I was like, oh, this is crazy. You could hear your bodily functions.
Mm-hmm.
But he said it wasn't soundproof like that, but it was pretty quiet.
Yeah.
And he goes, and so I thought maybe it was my heart. I'm hearing my own heartbeat. I'm listening to my own mortality. He's like, my son calls, and he's like, Happy New Year, Dad, whatever. He's like, I asked about my other son who wasn't speaking to me at the time. Because me and his mother were at odds. And he said that it was, he went away from the conversation happy that his one son had called, but sad that his other son wasn't talking to him. And so he said, I went out into the porch. He goes, and I'm standing there, I'm sitting there on the porch. This is the only time he saw this. And he says, I see something. He goes, and he believes he saw what people call Bigfoot. Like he literally saw it. He goes, I'm standing there and I'm looking at this giant reddish brown haired creature that's standing about, he goes, it had to be 8-9 feet tall, standing behind a tree. And it just kind of moved out from behind the tree and looked at him for a little while. He goes, I stood there and looked at it maybe 3 solid minutes. Then it moved back behind the tree. But there again, he goes, the tree did not look like it was big enough to, hide this guy. He goes, and I stood up, and then my dog was growling like crazy and then started barking. He goes, and I wasn't afraid of that. It wasn't scary. He goes, it was just there. So he goes, I actually walked down and walked through the snow. It was about 2 feet of snow. He's like, and so I started kind of clumsily walking through the snow. Because I got about halfway between me and the house, the halfway point. I didn't see anything. He said, I'm looking, I'm looking through the tree line, didn't see anything. So back to this one time where he was walking back to the woodshed. And he said, I'm walking to the woodshed, and my dog just starts growling at everything. He goes, and when I turned around and I got the wood and I started going back in, he's like, I'm walking, I'm carrying this wood, and then my jacket, everything, I'm bundled up, He goes, I hear this blood-curdling howl that sounds like it's coming from a long ways away. He goes, but it was so unnerving. Because he goes, it was this long, drawn-out howl. And then he's like, I stood there for a minute, just frozen, like no pun intended. He was frozen with fear, right? But he goes, I'm standing there and I'm frozen. He didn't say that, but I'm saying that. He's holding the wood. He goes, and I'm looking around. He goes, and I'm talking to myself, and I'm like, what the hell? He goes, and I said the words, what the hell? Mm-hmm. He goes, and then I hear this like echoey whisper come and say, what the hell? Like that. And then his dog was just like growling, and he goes, and she's walking around circles around me, and she's a good watchdog, but he's like, that old girl's not going to be able to do much, No. Maybe bark while I'm being bludgeoned, Mm-hmm. He's like, I got a pistol on me, but I'm standing, I'm holding this wood. He goes, and I look down. He's like, and I see tufts of hair and claw marks all over the door. And he said that had to have happened the night before because it wasn't like that the day before. And he said, I'm looking at this and I'm going like, what in the hell am I looking at? And he's like, and I got these big heavy gloves on. So I just opened the door and I ran inside and I put the wood down and I came back out and I had the flashlight, and I'm like, what is that? And then he goes, I hear the howl again. He's like, and it couldn't have been 2 minutes past, right? He goes, and I hear the howl again, but it's like real close. It's like right there by the tree line. He goes, first time, it sounds like it's 2 miles away. 2 minutes, right? And I stopped him and I said, Harley, are you sure? I mean, it was you sure? Because, people, they misjudge things and you don't, he goes, dude. He goes, Wolf, look, let me tell you. He's like, can I call you Wolf? I said, no, call me MC Bubbles Fisheye. Don't call me anything else. I don't play that. You understand me? Trying to lighten the mood a little bit here, okay?
Yeah.
So Harley's in the back, And he's, his dog's, he had to keep her in the house because, she's making too much noise. So he tried to hear her, and then he hears that howl again that was not the exact same thing, but it was echoing from where, the trees all around it. And he hears it, and he's like, so he shines a light, and he sees something move. Then he shines the light again, and it's moving around. Then he hears something on the other side, and he looks, and so he feels like whatever they are, there's multiple. So I told him, I said, okay, so then there's multiple. So the first one you heard was probably a different, thing, right? I mean, like it was probably further out. Maybe there was a bunch of them around there. He said, no, I got the impression, the feeling that this was the same thing. It was just messing with me. And whatever it was, he goes, I think there might have been more than one, because, but they were moving around,
Mm-hmm.
So, when you stand there in the cold and you're hearing this, and all you have is a couple guns and a dog, and you're by yourself. He's like, and this howl sounded like something from like a werewolf movie. He said, going through my head, I didn't believe in werewolves. He goes, I had no belief in werewolves. I didn't believe in Bigfoot, but I saw one. Right? So he goes, but I'm sitting there going, like, I'm wrapping my mind around, what is this? What is going on here? What are these claw marks? Now I gotta say that the incident here that happened before the Bigfoot thing. When he saw the Bigfoot, it was I think it was like a week or two after this.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole time all this is going on, there's weird things happening. The first time he saw an apparition was the first week of January. He saw a full-on apparition of a woman in the kitchen standing by the stove, and she had her hands down, and she was staring out the window, and he walks in. He's like, oh. So at his first reaction, because I said, what was your first reaction? Because he was telling me, he said, I thought, oh, somebody that they've come from, she's friends with the people, and they've showed up. He's like, and then I looked down, and she has no legs. He goes, and then she turns, her face slowly turns towards me. He goes, I put my hands on my face, and I went like that, and she was gone. He goes, but then, he goes, I got my bearings, and he's like, I'm going crazy. I'm going stir crazy. I'm losing my mind. The roads would be closed off for they had been closed off for 2 weeks at that point. And so he was not able to travel, to go into the town. He's like, and I'm going like, I am losing it. I am losing it. I saw a woman there. She's not there. He's like, but the year before, there had been some squatter that had gone into that place and had made a big mess. So he goes into the closet of the study, get this, and he finds a box, a shoebox, and it's got some papers in there, thrown in there. And one of them was a letter that had been written, but I guess never sent. And it was basically someone saying that they couldn't help themselves and that they were basically wanting to unalive themselves.
Hmm.
And they were talking to, I don't know who. He said it was no real buddy, but they were just like, I'm so sorry. I can't maintain. This place is bad. It's very bad. I got to go. I need to get out of here, but I'm trapped. He goes, and I'm reading this, and I'm going like, I'm reading this at that desk. And he goes, and I'm feeling this way, but not like unaliving myself, but
No.
but this person is going through this, obviously.
That desperation.
That desperation is going on. And so he's like, I'm feeling this sensation of wanting to jump out of my body, out of my skin. I feel like I got to get out. I wish I could fly up and just go away. I want to get out of here so bad. He goes, and so the phone lines went down third week of January. So he had no communication with the outside world. And then the satellite got covered with snow to the point where he couldn't do anything. You couldn't see TV anymore. He says, so third week of January till almost the end of February, There was no going into town. There was no communication with the outside world. He's like, so what do you do? He's like, life becomes very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you can only watch so many, DVDs or VHS, whatever. He was watching movies that they had already. And he goes, I'm watching DVDs, left and right, trying to, that's just reruns of whatever. So there would just be human noise contact,
It's your only company.
It's your only company. Ronan, the voice, we appreciate that you're into the game. That I'm glad Buffalo's beating San Francisco. That's awesome. But I don't think we need an update every whatever. Let's let that be the last update there. But I mean, you're welcome to put down whatever you want, but let's not keep talking about the football game because that's not, like I said, I don't know if you're a Buffalo fan or what, but I'm glad for that. But I mean, so he's sitting there and he's, watching DVDs and whatever, feel good movies as he called them. He was trying to watch them. He goes, but I fell asleep. He goes, at one point it was late January and I fell asleep on the recliner like I often did, reading with the sound of human voice, in the distance. He goes, and then I hear this whistling noise coming from outside. He's like, and I wake up and I'm actually awake. And he told me that. And he says, the movie that's playing on the TV is not the movie that I had put in.
Oh, no.
He said, get this. He said the movie that was playing on the TV was The Howling. When he said that, dude, that gave me.
Please tell me they had one of them fancy disc changers.
That's okay, Ronan. No big deal. I mean, but it and he said, dude, yeah, no, it wasn't. I asked.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I was about to say that. And so he heard the sound coming from the woods. He hears that, in the distance, and he goes, and I'm hearing one, and then I hear one in the back, and then another one, east, west, north. He goes, and it sounds like we're surrounded.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, and on the TV is this guy changing into a freaking werewolf. He's like, and I'm watching this, and I'm going like, what in the hell? Now, remember I told you about the guy that was crawling towards him with the skin and stuff? He's seen that guy again one day. But this time he was wide awake, and it was coming out of the bedroom, broad daylight, and he was walking down the stairs. And he sees this thing moving around at the bottom of the stairs. And his dog is barking up on the. There was this kind of like like coming out of the bedrooms. There was this long, where you could go and you could, I don't know what it's called, like a balcony, I guess, but you could look out over the floor,
Mm-hmm.
So he says, I'm looking out over the floor or whatever. You could see the downstairs, but you can't see behind you because then it goes into the kitchen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this thing was kind of moving around at the foot of the stairs, and then it runs and it disappears, and it's making this kind of laughing noise. And it looks like a man with elongated limbs, wolf-like, and it runs underneath the stairs. And he's like, "What in the hell was that?" And this was right before this incident,
Mm-hmm.
So that was a couple days before this particular incident right here that really was a game changer. That made things when he really started to feel like he was losing his mind. And he said the dog was barking, going crazy. He goes, and then I get down the stairs and I see this shadow-like thing move behind me upstairs. He said there was another incident that happened. And we talked about this just briefly on the show with Tim on Friday. I think it was Friday. And he said that because yesterday, folks, I'm not going to lie, that kidney stone moved and I was writhing in agony. I mean, I was in absolute agony for most of the day and night. And by the grace of God, I'm able to sit here and talk today because it started to bother me a little bit on the way over here, but it's not. It's when it moves. But so anyways, he was looking upstairs and he sees this woman standing on the balcony, that woman again,
Mm-hmm.
He says, like sandy blonde woman. And she's like looking straight ahead. He goes, and her mouth just opens and it just keeps opening to where it's elongated. And then her head kind of just goes up and becomes like what almost looks like horns coming off of her head, but then it becomes like ears. And then she just kind of, she's gone. And he's like, and I talked about that on the show, but he was like, what in the hell did I just see? He goes, I'm like, what was that? And then you got this weird letter that he had found, this suicidal person that he couldn't distinguish whether it was a male or female.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about that in a minute. So he hears this howling coming from all around the cabin. And this is not a little small place. It's 3 bedrooms. It's not huge, but it's not little. And one of them was the downstairs, not really a bedroom. It was used as a study. And then there was a big master upstairs and then a smaller room upstairs. That's how it was laid out. He goes, it wasn't a very common design. You wouldn't see, you know what I mean? It was a very unique place. It was a beautiful place surrounded by beauty.
Mm-hmm.
There was a pond not far away. He's like, but by late December, it was frozen. And he goes, and there was nothing you could do. No communication with the outside. Nothing. No mail. It's like being in Alaska, by the Arctic Circle or something. You're just kind of like out there,
It's just you in the snow.
And so it's just you and nature and whatever the hell is out there. And so he's out there being one with nature
Mm-hmm.
and the supernature. He wakes up and the howling is playing on the TV, right? He hears howling outside and he's thinking, okay, I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my freaking mind. This is a TV show. He gets up and he stops the DVD, turns it off. And he goes, but then he goes, I got really unnerved. I felt like there was something outside. He goes, and then I hear what sounds like clawed feet moving around on the deck outside the front porch. He's like, and then I hear it in the back by the door. And I'm thinking, oh no, whatever's out there is now surrounding the house.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, and so he's like, and this is where it got really, really hairy, no pun intended, once again. But he goes, I walked into the kitchen, turned the light off because I don't want them to be able to see inside. Whatever it was, whoever it was. He's like, I turned the light off and I see 2 yellow glowing eyes in the kitchen window. He's like, and normally I got to the point where I was keeping the shades drawn, whatever. For some reason, he goes, the blinds were open. He's like, and that wasn't me. I don't do that. It was like whatever was in the house wanted whatever was outside the house to be able to see in.
It's like it's taunting him or something.
And he goes, those 2 yellow eyes, I stared at them. He goes, I had my head around the corner just kind of looking, He's like, and they gradually turned into the visage of a wolf. He's like, and I'm staring at this thing and I'm thinking, okay, he knows 100% now. 100%. And somebody just hit the nail on the head there. Lawrence. Yeah, Maine is super desolate up towards Canton. Yeah. Listening to this guy tell this story, that's why it scared me. I'm sitting there going like, I'm living out in the country, but I'm like, I can run out of my house in my underwear and probably nobody would see me.
Nah.
But we have neighbors and we're not covered in snow. So if I get scared enough, I'm just going to tell Anthony, my brother, and Nelly, goodbye. I'm just going to jump in the truck. I'm going into town, I'll see you guys. I'm off to play bingo or whatever it is that people my age should be doing nowadays. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, but this guy, he was all alone and he was like, he goes, Wolf, you don't understand the terror. And I'm listening. I'm like, no, I don't, because I'm not dumb enough to go. And I did say that. I'm not making fun of the guy. I'm not, and he knows, Harley, if you're listening, I don't think he's going to be listening tonight, but he said he'd catch the replay, but that I'm joking, right? Because I did. I joked. I said, look, I'm not dumb enough. He goes, right. He agreed. He goes, it was dumb. He goes, I thought about it later. I was like, I make horrible life decisions. He goes, but a good thing happened. He figured out that a lot of the crap with his wife and him was his fault. And I said, well, everybody blames themselves when they're surrounded by werewolves and demons. You're like, how did I get here? Damn. I should have put the toilet seat down more. What?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here.
She told me to pick up that damn towel. And every
If
time,
I've been a better listener.
yeah. And every time I had something to say about it, she's like, I shouldn't have to tell you. I shouldn't have to tell you. I shouldn't have to tell you. Should have listened. Damn it.
The constant nagging and whatever. It was better than this. Oh, well. Back to being terrified. So he's looking out the window and he's looking. He goes, I said, of course, I knew the answer, but I said, I just wanted to hear him say it. And Harley, I wasn't trying to make you go through trauma, but I needed to know. And I said, what was it? He goes, it was a freaking werewolf. He didn't say freaking. He said it was a effing werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking right at this thing. I said, how far off the ground from the ground? He said, well, that side of the cabin, it was, it was leveled a certain way. He goes, probably about 7-8 feet off the ground. Because it was leaned down, kind of looking in. He goes, I could see it. Blackish gray. And he's like, and I'm looking at this thing. He goes, and I don't know. My mind's trying to make sense of it. He goes, but I am absolutely terrified. He goes, and then he's like, I started to, and this is kind of embarrassing for him, but he just, he said, I started to kind of pee my pants. He goes, but I didn't. I held it. There was a downstairs bathroom. I needed to go now. All of a sudden, I wanted to just. He's like, and I got down for some reason. I just felt like I should get down. And he goes, and I started kind of crawling. And this thing was looking. He said, and it just stood there frozen for a minute. Then it began to move kind of side to side and look like it was trying to look in. He goes, and then I saw confirmation that it was not just a giant wolf. It was a human-like hand that began to kind of pick at the screen. He's like, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, what am I looking at? He goes, and then I hear these things, at least 2 of them sounded like on the front porch. You could hear on the wood, their claws. He's like, and I could have swore I heard talking, like they were communicating, like there was speech of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes, I don't know what I'm listening to. I don't know what I'm looking at. He's like, all I can say is that it looked like a freaking werewolf. He's like, and I look at the clock. He goes, and it's 3:30 in the morning. He's like, and I started to not give a shit about time. I'd be up in the day, at night. I didn't have any, you're going stir crazy, Luckily, he goes, there was probably 200 books in that place, and I read half of them. He goes, and so he goes, I laid there on the floor, like in this yoga, like downward facing dog, This is what he said. He goes, I just laid there like, and my dog, he goes, my dog was smart. She was laying there like, what are we doing? This is what we're doing, We're laying on the floor together. The dog was not, she's like, she was not growling, barking, she was being quiet. Smart animal.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, so finally he goes, we crawled together into this bathroom. And we were there kind of looking out, and he goes, and I had a weapon. Thank goodness, 2 of them. He goes, and so he goes, I'm sitting there, and he goes, and then I hear this kind of like chatting upstairs, like there's people having a conversation. And he's like, and I don't know what that is. He goes, and I'm listening, and it sounds like a man and a woman going, kind of muffled, And he goes, and then they're getting louder, and it's like they're arguing or something. And then I hear boom, 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 going down the stairs, like somebody's tumbling down the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I screwed up. Sorry. That was on a separate occasion. This was when I messed that up. So, folks, sorry about that. I'm getting old, folks. So there was at the end this situation here. Let's get back to this one. That was it. He just stayed in the bathroom, and these things, daylight eventually came, and he came out, and he went to sleep, in the middle of the day, and he woke up, and it was nighttime again. Had some weird nightmares about things chasing him around in the woods. But it was like a man, like a faceless man, carrying some kind of like metal, elongated weapon. And he said it looked like, how those things that you use to. He saw this thing in his dreams a couple times. It was like an elongated weapon but it looked like the things you use to cut paper, paper cutter.
Yeah.
And he said it looked like that. And she was chasing him around the woods like multiple times. And he said he had that dream.
Mm.
And then he wakes up the next day and he's like, I don't know if I really saw what I saw or if it was just because the howling was on. So he goes through the DVDs and he finds get this is creepy. He finds the 3 or 4 horror movies that are in there. And of the 4 horror movies, 3 of them are about werewolves. Yeah. He's like, so he had American Werewolf in London, The Howling, and I can't remember the third one, but he said he threw them all in a drawer. He didn't want to see them. And one of them was A Nightmare on Elm Street, whatever. And he's like, I got rid of them. He's like, and I put them away. He's like, and then I went around the house, and not only did I close the blinds, everything, but he's like, I put like towels up all around the windows,
Mm-hmm.
so nobody could see in. And he's like, dude, I even made this weird kind of booby trap for the front and back door. And he's like, the next night I sat there awake all night. Nothing happened. Nothing came. Nothing happened. He goes, so then 2 or 3 more days go by. Nothing happens. He goes, I'm still having these weird dreams. And then one day, he goes, I think it was like mid-February. He's like, I've been going stir crazy at this point. It was about a month in of just no contact, no people, nothing. And he's like, I hear this knock on the door, like just a straight up knock.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes and he undoes the booby trap and he opens the door thinking there's going to be a human being there. And there's nobody there.
Yeah, because that would be a relief. Someone knocking on the door.
And he thought, I just, there was somebody there.
He
I heard
probably let something in.
Yeah. Well, he heard the footsteps up the stairs and then the knock. And he's like, I heard it.
Oh.
He goes, I opened the door and there's nothing there. He's like, but later that night, he goes, I was in the study. He'd taken it to calling it my study. It's nice to have a study. I know, believe me. And he says, I'm in my study. And he goes, I see this weird ball of light come down the stairs and then go out the front door. He goes, and I look out the window. I'd been kind of hiding out since the wolf-like things had appeared. He's like, and I see this thing kind of bobbing around. It's a yellow ball of light. And it goes out into the woods. He's like, and at that point, I'm sitting there going like, what in the hell was that? Because he had not seen this before. And so he gets up and he walks out and he looks out the window and he's like, he could see it moving around in the woods. But he said it was kind of bobbing up and down at one point and he saw 2 distinctly dark figures, very tall, standing on either side of this thing. And they all just kind of went off into the woods. Humanoid shape. He couldn't make out what they were. And now all this is going on when he's having all this, then he's freaking out psychologically. He's going crazy. Once again, okay, he hears like these weird, like footfall on the front porch. This was like toward the end of February, almost March, he said. But it was like when March came, he was like, oh, cool, it's March. Nothing changed. Till middle of March, it was still frozen winter wonderland. Nothing changed. You right?
Yeah.
So he said, dude, it was like date on the calendar, but still freaking weirdness happening. But he said this was toward the end of February, and he hears these clawed feet, whatever, coming around onto the porch, and he's like, "Okay, I'm ready." He grabs his weapon, and he goes into the bathroom, and he sits out looking out the door of the bathroom. He's got the lights off, so he can see, and he's like, "I hear them like kind of like making these noises, which sounds like communication to me." He's like, now this is when I got confused. Sorry about that earlier, folks. But he said that's when he heard what sounded like a man and a woman talking upstairs, but it was muffled.
Mm-hmm.
And then he hears like a struggle, and then boom, 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 something comes down.
Like
the
someone
stairs.
got pushed down the stairs.
Yeah. He goes, and then get this. He's like, I just got really drowsy. He goes, and I was so drowsy, I was so tired. He goes, it was like I was taking, Ambien or NyQuil or something. And he falls asleep.
Hmm.
He's like, and then the morning I get up and I go out there, and for a split second, I see a woman laying there at the foot of the stairs, this sandy-haired woman laying there, and there's like blood, around her head and her mouth and stuff. And then I was like, I freaked out, and I'm like, there's a woman here, and then she was gone. And he's like, over the next couple of weeks, he goes, I was starting to get, I goes, I was, he's like, I had never been this way before in my life. He goes, but I was thinking about unaliving myself.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, but I didn't want to do it in the cabin. So I was thinking, I need to go out into the woods and just do this. He goes, so I start walking out into the woods, and he goes, and I realized, he goes, I hadn't been outside for like a week. This was toward the third week of March, and he said, as I'm walking out, the snow had receded quite a bit. His foot was going about less than a foot in and touching the ground, and it was a little warmer. It wasn't like -10 or whatever,
Yeah.
And he's like, and it was a little warmer. It might have been in the 20s. And he said he was walking through the snow, and Harley told me, he says, dude, I turned around, I looked, and I see this man. He goes, full on, it was a dude. He goes, and he had the curtain lifted up like this, the towel that he had over.
Mm-hmm.
I was staring at him. He goes, and at that point, he goes, I look and I see it's a native looking guy. He looks like a Native American. And I said, was he dark skinned, light skinned? So I showed him a picture of you, and he goes, yes, he looked like he was from India.
Thanks.
That didn't happen, folks. It didn't. That part, I'm joking, man. I'm trying to. This is pretty, intense. But he's looking out, and he looks back, and he's like, "Holy crap!" And his dog was with him, and the dog's kind of sitting there, kind of whining, making that noise. Me making the noise, but him. You get what I'm saying. The dog's making this whiny noise, and it's kind of wagging its tail, putting his paw up on him because it's like it knows that he's in distress. And he looks back, and he sees this guy, and he's like, "Mother effer." He goes, he just looked like an evil, mischievous dude. He goes, he had a big, long nose. He just looked evil. He goes, he looked like an evil man. And he said he wasn't that dark complected. He just looked, but he looked like, he might have been native, maybe full or part, but he looked evil. He looked menacing, very menacing. And then he's like, he decides, he's like, I just get this anger that welled up in me, And he's like, I'm like, what the hell, dude? And what is that? He's like, in my birth, my mother on his, whatever, she's half Native.
Mm-hmm.
She was Algonquin. But he's like, dude, I got really aggravated. I just got really, and he goes, and I felt like this dude was messy. He had targeted me. There was a being. It was, I knew there wasn't anybody there. It wasn't a person. But this entity, as you called it, it had the ability to just stare at it. He goes, and I saw this was the man that was wearing the skin and was jumping around. And so he goes, dude, I just took off running back toward the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, and I opened the door, and I'm like, you son of a bitch, where are you? And he starts screaming. I start flipping over furniture and tearing up the cabin and going crazy. I took board games and threw them all over the place. He just he went nuts. He's like, I was losing my damn mind. I was going crazy. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to take you with me. How about that? We're going to go together. Let's go to hell together. He starts screaming at this guy. Then he hears this kind of like laughing in the back behind the cabin. And he runs to the back, and he goes out there, and he's like, he hears some noise like snow crunching. And then he sees the door closed to the woodshed. So then he thought, what if this guy's physically a real guy?
Mm-hmm.
He looks down, and this is when he gets really freaky. He says, dude, I see. You want to get some?
All right.
Because I need some water anyway. So he says he looks down, and he sees this footprints. He's like, but they were weird. They were stretched out and kind of half paws, right? Now, when he starts trying to describe the footprints, before he even finished, I said, dude, I know what you're going to tell me. I've heard this before. And we've talked about this recently. This was one of the reasons why I wanted to tell this story, because I don't want to sound repetitive on here, but this is in the same vein of some stuff that we've been talking about. So you got to kind of put the pieces together. And so he says, I'm watching this. And he goes, and I see this leading up to the shed. He's like, dude, and I freaked out. He's like, I grabbed this 12 gauge and I just marched into that, and I slung the door open. He goes, and I'm waiting for something to be in there. And I said, was there? He goes, yeah, there was. He's like, it was dark in there, pitch dark in there. He's like, but I heard something and I saw something dark moving around in there. He's like, and I couldn't bring myself to go up in there. And my flashlight was, I'm out of batteries. He goes, my flashlight was dead. And I had taken to just kind of hunkering down every night, being, whatever. And he's like, there was something in that shed, whether it was physical, spiritual, or in between, I don't know. So he says, I backed up and I just ran back into the cabin, and my dog was just barking, going crazy. He's like, and so I stood there at the back window watching. He goes, and then it got dark. He's like, and I watched, and then I heard this howling noise again. And I heard what sounded like these things around the house that was happening about once a week. And there was no real pattern that I could latch onto or tell you when they were going to show up. Thank you for that donation, Sailor. We appreciate it. He goes, I couldn't tell you, whatever. He goes, I can just describe to you the fear. He goes, I was sweating. He's like, I was just, he goes, I felt like I needed medication. He goes, I'm sure I was very unhealthy. And so he's like looking out the window. He goes, and finally about 2, 3, whatever, 4. He's like, I just lost track of time. He goes, that door opened. He goes, and I'm watching the back woodshed. He goes, and I see snow move, kind of dust up. But nothing, there was nothing visible. You could see the environment being manipulated, but there was no visible physical thing coming out of that woodshed. So I'm left to think, I'm like, is it a spirit? And he said, yeah, it had to be some sort of spirit, or it was just an entity that was invisible, cloaking itself. So I asked him, because we know here on PRT, did it have like that sort of cloaked look, that I asked him, I said, was there blur? Have you ever seen the movie The Predator? He said, yeah. Okay. And he said, no, he didn't see anything like that. Come here, Elvira. Come on. So, I'm sorry, I was calling my dog. I wanted to run out when he was outside. So, there's this, the shimmer. Thank you, Outtuition. But I told him it was like a blurred look. And he said that he was looking out the window when he saw this. He goes, and I knew that thing had come out of there. They kind of confirmed it was like a spirit type thing, right? So then he says, dude, the level of intensity of this started to ramp up. He said, I checked the phone every day. He goes, finally, middle of March, the phone was back on. He goes, and I thought, oh my gosh. He goes, and then he goes, so I climbed up onto the roof and I got the snow off of the satellite and I was able to get it to, he's like, and then a couple of weeks and you could kind of watch TV a little bit. He goes, the phone would go in and out. I was able to communicate with the outside world. The roads were still kind of closed off, but eventually by the end of March, he goes, I was able to get through, and I told him, I said, look, I'm going to go into town. And he said, my first trip into town in like, a month and a half. Or at least attempted. He had attempted. So it was about 2 months, he said, but he had attempted 6 weeks before. And it was too much. So it was 2 months, but he hadn't been into town, but he had attempted it. So he gets into town, he's like, and he's out there, and then he starts talking to this guy at the store. And this guy at the store was like, "Oh, I haven't seen you, in a while. How are you doing out there?" This guy, he's only talked to him one time. He goes, and when he told him that he was going to be staying out that cabin, that guy was like, "Oh." So he told him, he says, "How are you doing out there?" Because he says, "I hadn't shaved. I looked crazy." He told him, he just flat out told him, he goes, "Not good. I feel like I'm losing my mind." So then this guy that was living in the town tells him, he said, he looked like he was older than the hills out there. And this old guy tells him, he says, there used to be a house out there and they knocked it down. The people that owned the cabin before your friends did, John and I forgot the lady's name, Chelsea, Leslie, something like that. He said before they owned it, there was another family that lived out there. There was a native guy. And he said that he was with this woman. And she went missing. Because it was years and years ago. He goes, and that guy, he was half native. His mother was a white, or his dad was a white man, and his mother was a native woman. He goes, but his grandfather on his mom's side was known by the locals, the natives in that area. They were terrified of the guy. They didn't like the guy at all. Okay, so Anthony's gone now, and my dog is going crazy barking at something that I can't see. And I just heard another noise. Elvira! Come here. What are you doing? Oh, man, she came running. Oh, man. But you're shaking. What's going on? Why are you shaking? Are you okay? It's okay. What's going on? You heard that noise? I heard it too. My dog is literally shaking, guys. It's weird. What was that? Come out blasting? Yeah, probably. We got to look up on these bitches. For sure. What was that again? Okay. She said, I got to kill the people I'm with to purify myself. Okay. So I'm going to let my dog chill here because she's visibly shaking up here. I don't know what's going on, folks. But anyways, where was I at? So Harley was telling me, he says, dude, this guy was telling him this story. So he says, I'm sitting there and he goes, and I'm just blown away by this guy. He goes, this is scary stuff. He goes, well, yeah, I've been out there for months by myself. And he's like, oh yeah. He goes, I wondered if you were okay. You said you were going to be out there. He goes, and he goes, if you want, he goes, we can come out there. And if you need supplies or whatever, he's like, how much longer are you going to be out there? He told me, he goes, probably at least another month. They told me that they were going to be back in April. If I could stay till April. And he goes, and I had told him I didn't want to. But he goes, but they're going to pay me double. So I decided to go ahead. He goes, I've lasted this long. He's like, but it's okay now that it's spring, and it's thawing. And he's like, and I got communication and everything. So he says, I'll come out there with my wife and we'll bring you some supplies and we'll talk more. He's like, so that's what happened. He said, so for a few days, nothing was going on. Then he said that the guy came out there to visit him. I can't remember what he said the guy's name was, like Carl or something like that. He goes, and him and his wife come out there and they bring him a pot of stew and they sit down and she puts it on the stove and they talk. And he said that there was another house that had been there. We talked about that. But his wife had information too. But his wife said, she goes, we knew that family that was here. And she goes, and we always suspected that, I'm not going to say the guy's name because I don't know his status and I'm not going to say things. I'm pretty sure he's passed on, but, don't want to get sued or anything like that. But he said that they were almost positive that he had everything to do with her disappearance. And the guy's grandfather was known to be a powerful medicine man who practiced what they call bad medicine. And they believe that he may have been doing it too. The guy's father, it was crazy. You know, his father went missing. Like he left. Now, he didn't die. They know that because he showed back up in like Kentucky or something like that. Or some state, Tennessee or Kentucky, something like that. And then he showed up like 10 years later. Like he was found, but he had run away from these people. His dad was a white man. But the father-in-law of this guy's wife, the one whose wife went missing, you know, they said that eventually the mother, she stopped coming out in public and stopped, you know, and then eventually she passed away. And she was like very timid and quiet, and her dad had absolute control over her and her siblings. There were 2 boys and 4 girls. And the dad, the grandfather of this lunatic, that's what I think he was an evil guy. Had absolute control over his family. They were not allowed to do anything, go anywhere, do anything. And they would come to town in the spring, grab supplies, and go back out to the property. There were 2 old shacks in the back that were there this time immemorial. They don't even know, that they think belonged to fur traders. And then there was this house that was there. And it was a 2-room shack. And it was really all it was. And they knocked it down and they built a cabin over it. And so on that property, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. But he said, he goes, they have a small cemetery in the back. He says the old man, he goes, he's old, his arm's shaking, you know, and he goes, he's like, sometimes dead is better. Pepperidge Farm remembers. No, he didn't say that. I don't want to get in trouble with anybody making fun of nobody. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Harley, I'm just having fun. Please don't. I already told him how I was. I was like, look, I'm nuts. All right. Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm used to that. But he says, no, he's like, his hand is shaking. He goes, back there behind here, you know, about 40, 50 yards is a cemetery back there. And he goes, I can show you. He's like, I've been back there. I didn't see any headstones, you know? Mm-hmm. So they walk back there and there's a little deer trail. But of course, most of it, he said, he goes, for the most part, I was like, you didn't notice that? You didn't notice the haunted cemetery back there? And he was like, dude, it was snowed over.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, it was winter wonderland out there. It was white. It's always whites. So anyway, he goes back there, right? Into the back, and he goes, and you know, this guy from Pet Cemetery takes him. I'm joking. He walks him back there. And he says, see, I told you, sometimes dead is better. I'm joking. But he says here, are the headstones, he goes, and they were covered in snow. He's like, and so they kind of dusted them off a little bit, and he saw them. The oldest one was from 1810. He's like, he goes, holy crap, there's a whole graveyard, family cemetery back there. And so he's sitting there and he's like, what in the hell? He goes, I'm right there next to a cemetery the whole time. He didn't know this. So eventually April comes. It was in the middle of April. He goes, you know, and he goes, I was on the computer trying to file my damn taxes. You know, it's like it was already tax time, you know. Mm-hmm. And these people are showing up and they're like, hey, we're here. He's like over there, like, you know, Jack Nicholson, like, I'm trying to write my book. You know, he's you know, dour faced, pissed off, you know, whatever. He's like, I got up and I was like, okay, cool. And he goes, yeah, I'm sorry I trashed the place out. This place is haunted and you have werewolves and Bigfoot out here. And they were like, what? He's like, but then I realized, he goes, don't play dumb. He's like, I got really snippy with him. He goes, you had to have known this shit was out here. Mm-hmm. He goes, and the husband, John, was like, well, I didn't, you know. And he said he could tell by the wife looking down at the ground. She was like, yeah, well, there's been a few little minor things, whatever. He goes, minor things? He's like, do you stay here or do you just come for a weekend and leave? Is it all fun and games? He goes, because if you knew any of this crap was going on, why the F did you have me staying here for months? And so they paid him and they gave him way more than he was supposed to get.
Yeah, I better.
And he said, I gave him a little bit of the highlights. He's like, but my friend Dina, he's like, that got us and connected us. He says, he could tell you some other stuff that these people talked about. So I'll get into that. Yeah, exactly. Under fire. That's the scariest part of the show right there. Trying to figure it. If you're me, you got to figure it out. You know, it's like, it's a lot more complicated than most people, but you know, I'm glad I have friends though that have it way more complicated than me. So, you know, it could be worse. But you know, so what ends up happening? Dina tells me, she's like, look, she goes, these people, they sold that cabin. And now the people that bought it are trying to sell it too. Because they spent a winter out there. People that own it now.
Mm-hmm.
And they are so mad at the people that sold it to them because the people that sold it to them actually unearthed a few things in that place. Because when they went underneath it, and they found bones and all kinds of weird stuff.
Jeez.
The letter that was written there that belonged to the first people that built that cabin, and that person did actually commit suicide. They went out into the front, whatever, and they walked out into the tree line and did it. Just like he was going to do. Yeah. So he's, in my opinion, this guy's lucky to be alive, that he didn't actually get killed by whatever the hell's out there or succumb to the pressure of whatever it was. Now, if you want to unwrap this, there is a lot of stuff going on here. So if you have questions, don't ask me because I don't have the answers. I'm just saying. Now, go ahead, guys. If you have any questions or you want to say anything, I'll tell you two of the things that were told to me. We'll get that. We'll do that for a podcast episode. We'll talk about what happened with these people. This couple was basically challenged to go and do it themselves. And they couldn't do it. They stayed out there for a month and had a bunch of crap happen to them. And that was in the summertime. So the next group that comes in, they bought the place and they stayed out there, you know, at Christmas, and they got snowed in for 2 weeks. And then they tried to make it into town and they got stuck halfway, and then they had to walk back up, and it was ridiculous. So and then there was another couple of weeks. And so it was almost a month, I guess, they were out there.
Yeah.
For the winter, for like most of like part of December, January. And I know their names, but I'm not going to say them, but they did say that they learned their lesson. So I would be extremely agitated. I would have probably, you know, done something really stupid like shit on the bed. I'd have been Amber Heard. I'd have shit in all the beds. I mean, you know, why not? I've always wanted to. When I heard that she had done that, I was like, I've thought about that.
Pee in all the corners.
You know, somebody makes you mad, you just shit in their car or whatever. You know, I've always thought the feces should be more weaponized than it is. I mean, apes use it like crazy. I mean,
You could put it in a bread bag and hide it in their dash.
tell them about. What he's referring to is something that one of our friends actually did.
Yeah, I didn't just make that up.
He didn't
That's
just
a real
make it.
thing.
One of our friends, Mike, actually did that. He actually gave us his creepy story of house sitting, and we recorded it. But we decided never to use it because he cussed so much. Every other word was a cuss word out of Mike's mouth, so we couldn't use it. Mike's a friend of mine. We used to work security together. What's he doing? I think he's selling furniture now.
Probably, yeah.
That's what he said. No, that's what he said. I don't know if he's still doing it, but I haven't talked to him in a while. But so there's a good one. Our tuition has a, he says, I wonder what's the first cause of all this. Cursed land, the Dogman, the suicide. Hard to say. Now let's unwrap this piece by piece. First, you have people who lived out on that land who were probably practicing. I'm going to say 100%. I'm not going to say probably. We're doing something wrong. The Dogman creatures, were they native to that land or were they natives? You know, I don't know. What was in that area? The Micmac. So you got the dog people, men, whatever, out there doing what they're doing. But then he saw this Bigfoot type creature. Now, was that something that could have come out of a portal? Because I say this. When it went behind the tree, the tree was too small to be cloaking it. So how the hell did it disappear behind the tree?
Come out of a portal.
And was it some kind of, I don't think it had a lot to do with the haunting, but I do think it was coming in and out of there just like the other creatures were. Somebody said my wife has a story of a witch in a mall. It's wild. Yeah, you let me have it so I can tell it. Thank you for that, Philip Barnes. Thank you for praying for me, man. It's been a big help. I feel good that people are actually praying for me because God knows I have enough enemies rooting against me. They are so obsessed, and they're bragging. They're taking credit for throwing curses on us, for giving me kidney stones and gout. They're like taking credit for it. What are you going to accomplish by getting rid of me? What is your obsession with that? You are being used. I'm not even going to get into it, dude. You keep it up. You're being used to do something stupid. Let's just say that. Okay? You don't know what you're doing. Stop. So Andrew Brown says that's for sure a skinwalker. Now, were they all skinwalkers? That's another option. Was there something there on that land that was doing what it did that made those people be evil? Was the land already bad? Could it have been that all of this stuff created, a darkness that drew more evil to it, like evil begets evil type thing? So he said, Jordan Cochran says, Grandpa Leatherface made some inbred werewolves and buried them alive under the shed in the house. Oh man. That's definitely what I think, Wedge. Wedge Antilles says the entity wanted to break Harley down to unalive himself. We got 580 people in this chat right now. What do you guys think? And JFA says, can the land could have been cursed? I heard that could be a thing from the last live. Yeah, and it kind of goes in time with what we've been talking about. That's why we did this one. We like to mix it up and not just keep it, but this is so intriguing to me because, when I mentioned this story on the show, a bunch of people not a bunch, like 3 or 4, handful of people messaged me and said, hey, you should tell that story because it intrigued them because it was along the same vein of what we had been talking about. Yeah, Andrus has a good point. That's a good point too. Keep in mind there was a living relative who kept the curse going. You're probably correct, Joanne. Oh, that's a good point. Jordan made a good point. Says father and grandson skinwalkers. That's the two shadows, and the dead woman was the glowing ball. They captured her soul. So this is why I love you guys. I have an eyewitness that might be able to get on the show too. He's from China. I'm going to talk to him. He's a friend of mine, a friend of ours. And I'm going to speak to him this coming week. I got a lot to do this week, folks, because we just got a house, so we're got some things to do. But I want to get him on and talk about the Jianjing. Go to my Facebook if you're friends with me on Facebook, and I only have about 2,800 people on Facebook. I don't keep a lot of people on there. I'm not one of those 5,000 friends. I got about 500 friend requests that I had to quit accepting because of the people up in Oklahoma doing what they were doing, making multiple accounts, them and the roofer moron doing what they did. So we had to quit accepting. But the Jianjing are basically like immortals. Well, somebody said Chinese vampires, yeah. But this particular person can tell you that those forbidden areas, right? So I just go to my Facebook, you'll see it. If you scroll through the madness, because I do what they call shit posting. Believe me, I do. And so I wrote a little thing about about that area, the dragon spine, and it is a dragon spine. Look at it. I mean, look at the picture of it. It's a giant dragon spine. But anyway, I think I might be able to get him to come on if I can. It's hard to, But if you take a look, at this, Elvira, what are you doing? It's crazy, folks. It's nuts when you start looking at these stories. You will start to see a pattern. You'll see it. And to me, it's like it's as clear as day. I mean, like, what are we dealing with here? I'm pretty damn sure that this is people messing with shit. They shouldn't be messing with. Sorry for the curse words, but that's what they're doing. And then you have all this other stuff that's going on. You had the ghost, obviously, I believe it was a ghost of a woman that had been unalived. Jordan had a good point. It could be just like he said. I mean, I hope that people take this seriously. I mean, you don't got to go run out of your house shrieking in terror every time you hear a noise. You saw what happened earlier. I was by myself, and Elvira was kind of freaking out, and she was shaking. Something was going on. I've heard voices since the whole time we've been on here. But you can't be afraid. And a lot of times these things are bullies. You have to stand up to them. We in our old house, we're going to do an episode when Nellie's available. She's here now, but she's doing stuff. She had gone grocery shopping. She spent $500 and got 3 items. That's how it is now, right? But when the house we lived in had an enormous amount of activity going on. And then we decided we weren't going to talk about it until we were completely unattached and moved out of there. We still have a little bit of attached to that place, not completely unattached yet. So we're going to wait until we're completely done. Then we're going to talk about it. That's what we all agreed as a group. Multiple people slept in that house and had weird things happen, including researchers. I've had multiple people inside that house come over. David Weatherly and his wife, Ken Gerhardt and Celine, different people have come to that house. And some of them say weird stuff. So we will talk about it. But I took David's advice and he said, just get the F out of there. Don't sit there like bait. This was David Weatherly's words to me. He says, you need to get out of here. Anything's better than this. because you're going to become ill. And I did, because that place opened me up to spiritual attack. You say Limits, heck yeah, that's how my brother is. He got so angry at that house in South Austin, he would challenge and yell at it. Because this is your home and they have no right to be there messing with me. Yeah, trying to steal my peace, and it works exactly. It's crazy. But back to what we were talking about with these people, like you stop and you think, like, folks, think about it. Like, what would you do? What would you do if the Dogman came for you? What would you do? It's scary. Yeah. Righteous anger sometimes works, my friend, as uses with shadow people. Yeah. Betsy says sell. That's what they did. You know? I mean, I put myself in Harley's shoes. And I thought to myself, what in the hell? Well, first of all, me being me, I would not go out there and just be out there alone. If I had my old dog, Ivan, my English Mastiff, I felt when I was with Ivan, me and him, we could take on the world. I felt like an uber badass because I was a badass dude. And I don't know, toot my own horn. I know looking at me now, my head's a little weird shaped and kind of puffy. You know, I'm not as handsome as I was a week ago. You know, lost a little muscle. You know, I don't sit up straight. No. I'd date me. Yeah, I'd date me hard. That's what you need, a little wolf on wolf there. I'm joking, folks. Getting kind of weird here. Would you still listen to me if I did the whole show like this? So what this fool told me, right? Like he was like, I'm all alone up in the woods and stuff. It's all scary and stuff, right? And like I was scared. I would like, so I grabbed my gat, you know, and my dog. He was with me, but like I heard these woos, you know what I'm saying? I was like, ooh, what was that? Come out, blast. I don't think you would listen too long if I did that, would you? Anyways, stop it. There she is. You can say hi. Yeah.
Hello. I don't think they can hear me.
Yeah, you can hear you.
This is on.
It's not on? Well, that's Nelly. So, anyways, when you put yourself in this guy's shoes, I think he said he wore a size 12, so mine might fit. I'm 13. I'm not gonna lie to you folks. It scared the crap out of me to think of that. Because I'm thinking, I don't know what I would do. Even if I was well armed and I had holy water and the Saint Benedict and I had, you know, the power of prayer and, you know, I mean, like, I don't know what I would do. Had my dog with me. I've had a lot of good dogs in my life. I think Ivan would be the one because he was such a protector. I've wanted another Mastiff ever since because he was just an incredible animal. Lived for a long time. 15 years, almost 16 years. That's a long time for a Mastiff. And he didn't slow down until he was about maybe 12. And everybody kept telling me, you know, he's getting long in the tooth. He's not going to last much longer. And he just kept living. I took good care of him. Remember, Anthony? I used to get the pills and crush them up.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it in front of him. I had to hide him in his food because he'd look at me, and if he saw me put that in the food, he wouldn't eat it. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, you tonight. I'm like, it's kind of creepy. Kind of like he's threatening me there or something. What's up? He goes, tonight. No, he's a good dog. He was a good dog. He's in doggy heaven. I'm sure of it. I'm 100% positive. You know, he had his dog Shirley with him. I think that was the only. He told me many times it was if he didn't have her, he would have lost it, and he probably would have been done. He's like, that I found my frozen corpse there in the tree line. So it's a scary thing, man. It's a scary thing to think about. It's not something you want to think about. But I would make the suggestion to the audience, if someone has a cabin in the woods near Canada on the border where it's frozen tundra land, don't take the job. No matter how much he loved his solitude, this guy. Loved it. First couple months he was enduring it. He was a little bit lonely, but it was all right. He's like, and then it was like, oh my gosh, I wish there were people. Because he goes, it got too much. He goes, I couldn't take it no more. I just couldn't take it. So anyways, that's it for tonight, folks. We're going to wrap it up, but we're going to do the giveaway. If your name is in green, then you know what I mean. Right? So put my Springfield Cardinals hat on. No, I'm not a fan. I just like the hat. And I got a deal on it. They were like, hey, Black Friday. Stuff's cheap. I was like, okay. Whatever. Might as well. I'm already buying a bunch of other crap. I might as well treat myself. $1,013. Jeez Louise. I've treated myself a lot. Okay, all right. I'll take the bottle opener off. 2012. Fine, I'll put the bottle opener back. All right, it's Christmas time. It's December. Well, no, it's late November.
It's December.
You got to come up with a million reasons why you deserve it. I deserve this piece of pie. But you're really fat. It's Thanksgiving. I'm starving. Back off. Nobody wants to tell you anything because you're 6'4" and you're 350 pounds. You're like, what? I'm allowed to eat. They're like, that is not food. That is our dog. I'm like, oh, well, sorry. It was the color of a chicken leg. Don't have dogs that are brown. Who does that? It has them around the fried foods. It looked like a delicious turkey to me.
Beans look like fried chicken.
Yeah, Beans was little. Her head, the way she had that, she was real brown, and then she blonded out.
Yeah.
And so she had that little head. It looked like a little drumstick head. It's a little piece of fried chicken. She was so cute. Still so cute.
She is.
But when we actually could cut her hair. Tony got really good. Shout out to Mushu. He'll be back next week, but he would cut her hair. He's gotten good at it.
Yeah.
And that's where she can see. Because she was just running around like this, like, I'm blind. Like, what is wrong with this dog? Of course, she can't see. And Elvira, too. Elvira was like, what's going on here? Oh, yeah, there's Maddie. If your name is in green, please let us know if you haven't won. Yes. Okay, so if you haven't won, so Philip says fat people need love too. I wouldn't know. I'm slim and I mean I'm a thin man. I'm thin, right? Well, yeah.
Yeah. The Emperor's New Clothes.
Oh, shut up. I like that shirt with the burgundy trim. It's a medium fit me proper because I'm nice and slim. What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What? And what? You don't like skinny people?
There's a thin man somewhere underneath all that.
I got like 5 thin men in, like, just all here. You cut me in slices.
Oh, you ate them?
5 thin people.
You ate 5 thin people?
I haven't eaten you yet, dude. How about that?
Yeah, you're not quick enough. You haven't got the drop on me yet.
Peter Staub.
You tried.
Look him up.
The look on your face.
I'm trans skinny. I identify as a skinny person. There you go. Somebody just said that. They said Wolf is trans skinny. Who
That's
said that?
Maddie.
Maddie said that. There you go. Yeah, exactly. Our tuition's got it right too. Look at that. I'm actually 3 thin guys and the fat guys see that's what
Yeah.
But you know, I'm not. I'm actually. I really am very muscular. I'm not joking. I'm very muscular. I mean, because I lift weights quite a bit. So everybody mistakes that. I'm going to take a picture with my shirt off just to get brave. All right, I'm going to show you. I'm going to superimpose abs below that. Right. It's really just my head on a guy's.
Another guy's
Yeah,
body.
but how do you do with the tattoos? Though you got to do something with the tattoos.
Superimpose those.
Yeah, we can take them and we click.
It's 2 different colored people. For those of you
I
who
got a
don't
picture
stand.
of me though when I
You're
was
one.
young, and man, I was a great looking dude, man. But you know, everybody's good looking when they're young. Well, no, not everybody. Some people are lazy; they don't want to.
Sailor Nemesis has a question.
Thank you, Scorpio, for defending me. Top love. Exactly. That's what I do. Look at this. See, my brother tells you Wolf identifies as a little person like Maddie. Tony's always like teasing Maddie and Nelly about their height. He's like, look, I can get stuff up top shelf because Tony and Anthony are tall like me. Thank you, Tito, for that. Thank you for that, guys. Thank you to everybody that donated and cares enough about us to help out. We appreciate it. All these other people that are just freeloading and don't want to help, we understand. We forgive you. I pardon you. All right, guys. So let's get to it. Let's do this. Tonight, you got to give me your email and your shirt size. Okay, so we can do it because if not, we're not going to be able to.
No, their mailing address and their shirt size.
Yes, your mailing address. Sorry, what did I say? Email?
Yeah.
Now, when someone had said the other day, oh, nobody ever gifts me these, like Tito, he got those gift memberships. There's no way to give them to specific people.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
random.
Yeah, it's just random.
It's just random. Okay. There you go. So let's pick some people here. Who hasn't won? Tell us now, quickly. It's first come, first serve on here, guys. Lawrence, I'm trying to feel better. I'm hoping that I will feel better.
Sailor Nemesis had a question.
And Miguel says, how does one become a member? There should be something. How do
I'll
they
show
do
you.
it?
Like, so you click this little. There's a little dollar sign. You see that right there? You click that on the chat, right there. Wait, and it'll give you the option to leave a super chat or become a member. You just click become a member, and that's it. And it's just like a $5 a month thing, and it turns your name green.
Yeah. And it's $5 a month, and then you're entered in to win. So who do we got? If you haven't won, say you haven't won. No, Philip, Scorpion's got an Android, I believe. Does she have an Android, Scorpion? Unless you got something different that I don't know about.
No, he's got an Android.
Andrew says the option to
Well,
become a member does show for you. I don't know what to tell you then.
If you're on iPhone, I have no advice for you. I don't use those wretched things, so I don't know. I mean, have no experience with iPhones. I don't know how to work it.
Sailor Nemesis, if you want to buy a hat, I mean, we sell those for like, what are they, $30 or something like that?
Yeah.
But I mean, if you want, you've been around for a while. I mean, if you're just really absolutely wanting to buy one, I mean, you can just send the money through PayPal. We can mail it to you. But are you a Patreon member? If you're a Patreon member, that's the best way because we'll just send it to you in a swag bag. And if you are already a member,
So iPhone, Philip Barnes is saying go through Safari and not through the YouTube app.
I don't see Sailor Images on here.
Oh, the Clifton's way up there.
But we don't normally sell those. We will eventually be selling those through the store. But we don't normally sell those. We normally just give those away. Have you won anything recently, Sailor? Because if not, I mean, I can send you one.
She said she was a while back.
So just send me your email address or I'm sorry.
Just email us with your address.
Email us with your address. We'll just send it to you. You don't got to pay for it. But if anybody else wants to, then but you said you already had one. Well, then let me know, and then we'll just make sure you remind me that it's what kind you have, so you don't get the same one. So anyway, did anybody come up with Mimi says I haven't won in 7 years. We haven't been around 7 years. Come on now.
Nobody won in 7 years.
7 years ago, nobody won. I was on this other show, wasting my talents. And then all of a sudden, you contributed nothing to that show. People said some stupid things. Really? I did? Oh, they put you on the map. How about I put him on the map? Could work both ways. Especially when you're as boring as watching paint dry. Dale Pendergast. Okay, so I saw you had sent me an email, Dale. So we had sent you something out, but I guess it got lost in the mail because I found 2 different times that we had sent you something. So if you didn't get the second time when you actually, because it was one you won a contest and then one you had something else, Patreon or something, we'll try to resend it to you. Make sure you submit your information to the email address. Okay, Dale? So we can send that out when we mail.
Did you get Jamie Johnson's information? They sent it to you?
I did not, Jamie. Yeah, I was going to tell you, you need to send that. Maybe you sent to the wrong email because I didn't see it. So anyway, so nobody's stepping up and saying that they haven't won. So if you're somebody who, even if you have won, that's the good part about being a member. Step up and tell me now, because nobody's stepping up and saying,
Mimi
hey.
P, she hasn't won in 7 years. So
Mimi, how long has it been? Seriously.
that page might be the other one, Jamie. Send it to the email, please. Philip Barnes would like a hoodie.
Yeah, the hoodies don't have them right now. We have to make the order, and we had to wait until the first of the month. Now we will. Tomorrow or Tuesday, we'll be mailing off. Probably Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll mail off because we got a lot to do tomorrow. And then we got to do the hoodies. We'll have to order those.
Debbie says she won, but she didn't get the right book.
Okay, what did you want, Debbie? What's the book that you want? That you wanted? There's Jordan. He just became a new member. Jordan, have you won before? So Mimi said it's been 5 years. Okay, so then Mimi, you win. Simple as that. Jordan, how long has it been since you won? Debbie, you're asking for a book, whatever. Well, that's it. I mean, Mimi says Halloween. Halloween, what year? Because if it was Halloween this year, that's like last year, whatever. It was just.
I haven't won since Halloween. She goes, Josh, his book, Hutchinson book.
Josh Cutchin's book.
We have his, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get you. Make sure you specify, Debbie,
in the email,
because you have people with the retardation that work here, like Kim and Tony, who might really be, they might actually have some issues.
Yes, Larry Sharp. There is a Patreon. Where is it? I don't know where it is though.
Okay.
Somebody said put the Patreon link on there.
Watching you from Terror in the Woods.
Oh wow.
That's cool.
I looked terrible in that, dude. And I was so angry that day. I almost walked off the set because I was like, they're like, you can't have a shirt that has anything on it. And I'm like, can't you just put some tape on this? Come on, dude. But then something weird happened at that. Remember, Anthony? Something weird happened there. We heard that the 3 loud bangs, and then
The makeup artist, she left.
Jordan Cogburn said he's never won before. And then
Maddie put the Patreon on there. Maddie, don't worry. When we get the new hoodies in, we'll get you one. If we can find one that's extra, extra, extra small.
I thought we were going to start getting them for infants. The little
But-
onesies. I love you,
We'll get you a
Maddie.
onesie. Okay, we'll get you a little onesie. You can bounce on my knee like like Elvira. Like, why is he bouncing that toddler like that? That toddler has a full head of hair. What's wrong with these kids? Are weird looking these days. Oh boy. So we got Jordan Cogburn. We got you, bro. Send us your email with your address and your full your name, whatever.
Oh, he said he won way back, but never got his stuff.
Never got your stuff. Well, that ain't good.
who said that?
Jordan Cogburn says he won before. See, sometimes though people win and they don't send us their information or it doesn't get there because not the last time, not Friday and not the Sunday before, but the Thursday before, we only got 2 people. There should have been 4. There was only 2 that gave us their information. So 2 people aren't going to get their stuff.
You got a pen?
I don't know what to tell you.
Under Fire 987 says he hasn't won before either, and he's a member.
Under Fire.
So we're picking
He said
Jordan.
he's interested in a book. Yeah.
So we got Jordan. We're giving away shirts right now, buddy.
And who else did you guys pick? So I just got Jordan so far. And Debbie, she needs.
Yeah, Debbie Cothra. And then
What's the Josh book?
so there should be 3 people or 4. There's Debbie, Jordan, and who else? Mimi.
Mm-hmm.
She hadn't won since 2019.
Mimi P.
Who else?
Under Fire 987. It says very fair. I could do a shirt too large. Okay, so yeah, Under Fire just sent us an email at Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com with your shirt size and your mailing address.
Okay,
And
so that's
Sailor
everybody.
Nemesis said that she wanted a hat. So send me the information of what you want, guys. The ones that we named. Betsy says cat sweaters. We need to get our cats would look cute in little sweaters though.
Aw, yes.
I like to get one for little Marmar. He
He
gets
would-
cold. He comes in there because we got the heater going.
He would look good in a green one.
We have no heat in our house right now, folks. Where we're living out there. It's crazy. Okay, but we finally are going to be living somewhere better. But the land out there is just beautiful. It's a wonderful place.
Might as well just live outside because it's so nice.
It's so nice to go sit outside. I mean, it's what me and my brother and Nellie and Anthony do. We just sit outside.
Mhm.
And Tony's living in the city, living at our friend's place. He's never there. He's got the run of the house. Unfortunately, it's haunted. Tony's oblivious to it. He don't care. He's just like, it is. Oh. He's like, if you made a deal with him, man. We're kidding. We joke. Okay.
Well, we bought that little space heater, little tiny. What is it called?
Which one?
The little heater. That little heater that makes it the noise, the loud noise.
That little one that we got?
Yeah.
The R2D2? The R2D2 5000? Oh man. So anyways, yeah, and then Scorpions, he was living at an apartment on Post, and then the thing ends tonight, or last night was the last night. So Scorp will be coming home soon. Damn.
Scorp, he writes, I can see you, you know that.
All right, guys. So anyway, G-Lo, if you want to win, you have to, because I can't just give stuff away to everybody because it's not fair to people who put their name in green. Somebody chastised me the other day about that. She's right. She's like, you're giving away stuff and I'm paid for a membership, but you're giving to people who didn't buy one. And I'm like,
Whoa, Lawrence. That's crazy. It's all good times.
Okay. All right. I'll see you guys. Thank you for participating. And we got to run because we got to go.
Gotta go
We
somewhere.
got work to do.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. We'll see you.